Hello, hello. You are once again listening to the Exit Light podcast. I am your storyteller, Eli Beals. This could just be the last episode I record of the year, as today is December 24th, Christmas Eve. So, happy holidays, or whatever you like to say. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I think as long as the intent is genuine, they mean well by whatever it is they're saying. Whatever you celebrate or not, I hope you're doing okay. This story is not exactly a horror story. It's, open to interpretation. I don't really like stories that end with nice, neat, and tidy conclusions, because it doesn't open any dialogue. It's an open and closed door. The story is over. You can stop thinking about it now. Everything happened this way, and it is done. I enjoy wondering what happened to this person. What did they decide? If they decided this, then this might have happened. If they had chosen the other option, then that might have happened. I love that exercise. Stories should engage a person, should make them think, make them wonder, make them curious for answers. Of course, you can, if you want the neat and tidy conclusions, I'm afraid I can't give those to you, not always. I just don't like writing them. I feel like it's a joke that you need to explain after the punchline. It's just not interesting. It's not funny. It's not scary. It's not provoking at all. Anyways, on with the story. Melora's Quest, written by Eli Beals. I, like millions of people, play online games, and have been playing them for a good chunk of my life. Well, one game in particular. I know it's escapism. It's just that reality hasn't been kind to me. It's not that I think I deserve more, it's that no matter what I've achieved in life, it was never as good as I could imagine. Here I am already speaking of myself in the past tense. I'm not depressed. I'm not suicidal. Let me make that clear. I will just say that nothing in the real world can provide me with the satisfaction I desire. It doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. I'm just getting this out there. I don't have a social life to speak of, nor any interest to climb any corporate ladders. I make enough to be content with my lifestyle. And yes, it's a lifestyle, or whatever you want to call it. I feel like people put labels on things so they can all nod and agree with each other, just another way to validate their own choices. I suppose my obsession could be something like drugs, or anime, or whatever. What I'm saying is, it could be way more cringy. Now, I know technology is advancing to places that sci-fi writers could only imagine decades ago. Fusion reactors, warp technology, nanomachines, the list goes on. And though discovery and scientific progress is important, we as a culture have prioritized entertainment in ways that previous generations would be appalled by. We live vicariously through our TV stars, sports teams, and our elected officials. We exist by association, with no way to really contribute to these mediums save for watching. clapping, open-mouthed, possibly drooling. They say the general population is growing less intelligent as our dependencies on intuitive machines do the mental lifting for us. Our brains are smoothing out, becoming passive receptors to any and all subversive ideas that penetrate our dulling minds. I guess that's the fear, and I don't watch the news or any shows following certain celebrities or what passes for royalty these days. Now that is a waste of time. No, I prefer to be engaged, challenged. I go on adventures all the time in this virtual place. You might know what it's called. Who doesn't? So I won't name it here, but yes, it's the one you're thinking about. You could say I know quite a lot about it, and even now as I write this, I would much rather be running through vibrant forests killing rat men for loot, or chatting with people from all over the world about why pineapple on pizza is delicious, or a cardinal sin. Except I'm a little freaked out right now. Not sure logging in would be such a good idea because I know she is there. I should explain why, I guess. Now, as I've said, I've been playing this game for a long time, and I'm very familiar with the world and its characters. I like to play in areas that are sort of off the beaten path, enjoying the story and setting without the pressure of scheduled game time and equipment requirements. Just me and the task set for me called a quest. Some of these areas are neglected for the most part as they tend to be out of the way, which leaves the zone largely to myself. There is a quest line that I like to do sometimes when leveling a new character. It has a pretty good reward at the end, and plus, I like the area a lot. The color scheme is lots of cool tones, blues, purples, with dappled green ground textures. Some people like to listen to their own music or play podcasts while playing, but I enjoy the ambient music and sound effects. Birds calling in the distance, the crunch of leaves as the character moves through the implied brush. It makes it more immersive, I guess. Along a winding path leading to a little valley, there is a small cottage with an NPC named Melora. That's non-player character if you don't know already. She starts a chain that eventually leads the player to a dungeon along the coastline, if you have a specific item in your inventory. In this case, it's a message found in a bottle. Her story is about her lover lost at sea, presumably captured by a band of hideous fish creatures. I admit the quest line is rather tedious, having to run back and forth so much, but it's worth it in the end. So I ran my character to the little cottage, expecting to see her waiting inside with a big yellow exclamation mark hovering over her, ready to dispense the quest. Except she wasn't there. What the hell? Maybe someone killed her, I said aloud, irritably. As I waited for her to respawn, which could be a few minutes, I checked my crafting list to see where I was at with my chosen profession, alchemy. I could busy myself with gathering herbs in the meantime, and just as my camera swung around to point out through the door, I saw her walk towards the cottage. Huh, this is new. She was carrying something, and upon seeing my avatar standing in the doorway, she dropped it. A bundle of flowers scattering and falling to the ground. I moused over them and saw they were water lilies, something I could use for potions, but for some reason I could not target her. Very odd. Maybe I should let her complete her path, some kind of role-play event. But instead of approaching, she drew a longbow and aimed a notched arrow at me. From this angle, it seemed like she was aiming right through my monitor and at my face. White text appeared in a chat bubble over her head. "What are you doing in my house?" Stunned, I just stared in amazement. This was definitely new, and well beyond what I thought NPCs were capable of. "Answer me, or I will drop you where you stand," she yelled. This time, the text was in red. "I was looking for you," I typed out. "To what purpose?" she spoke. The text was white, and I swear I could hear the tension in her bow relax a little bit, with a subtle creaking. "Holy shit," I said out loud, marveling at this entirely new experience and interaction with the game. "I'm here to help you. Your lover is missing, right?" "How do you know that? Who are you?" she says as the bow disappears. Knowing the storyline very well, I tell her about the message in a bottle I recovered on the shore to the west. She then demands to see it, and I open my inventory, and I'm not sure how, but the item I had found that starts this whole quest had become interactive, so I clicked on it. My avatar held out a scrap of paper which she took from him, almost reverently. The detail was incredible. I could see her eyes tracking lines written on a page as if she were actually reading it. Then she seemed to shrink and began to cry softly. Not the scripted soundbite that emotes a dramatic wail that you can do by typing in a command, but quiet, bitter sobs. By then I was wondering if I was not hallucinating, or what might have been in that energy drink I had earlier. After a moment she approached and stopped in front of my character and in white text said, "Could you please move? You are blocking the door." Almost everything that moves in this game does not have character-on-character collision, otherwise you'd have players obstructing things on purpose. Or if not on purpose, then it would just be annoying to navigate a crowded area. So players just pass through each other like ghosts, avoiding such situations entirely. I accidentally hit the W key that moves my character in the direction he's facing and collided with her. She responded with an indignant yelp. So hastily I backed him up into the cottage, and she breezed by him with an odd expression on her face. Again, I was astounded by the animations. Was this some kind of test or preview for new game mechanics? Mind you, this is not a current-gen game. It generally has pretty low poly count, but I swear I could see a furrow between her eyebrows. This quest I was doing had undergone some dramatic changes, and it seemed I would have to play along to proceed. It took me a while to adjust to this new format of play, and though it was so far the most granular quest experience I've seen, it had me engaged to the point that several hours had passed without me realizing it. The interactivity is what had me wondering if this was really an NPC and not like a game master taking the reins, so to speak, or if this was AI. It was really good cutting-edge AI as our conversation seemed, well, real. She would comment on my combat skills as we proceeded to the shoreline, battling huge spiders and packs of starving wolves. She laughed when I would stop near their corpses, asking what I was going to do with the various things I was collecting from them. One spider had a belt of decent quality, and I showed it to her. The response was a mixture of bewilderment and amusement, saying, "Why would a spider have such a thing on it?" and only nodded when I said maybe the adventurer that it ate must have had it on them. Now, I've never really RP'd before. That's role-played, for those who don't know what that means. And I began to feel like I had been missing out on a very engaging aspect to my beloved game. Melora's responses were always in character and not wanting to break that fourth wall. I played along. Eventually, I realized it had gotten very late and had work the next day. Actually, in about 6 hours, to be exact. and she seemed genuinely confused when my character sat down as the log-out timer ticked down. Just before the screen dissolved into the login portal, I saw her wave, not to my character, but to me. I sleepwalked through work, did my tasks, sent the emails, ate my lunch, and performed everything with a mechanical sort of monotony. Not that anyone really noticed. As long as my emails ended with a friendly "best regards, Kevin," everything was just as it should be. My mind kept returning to the shaded woods of my game, and to Melora, and the chagrin that most players concerned with high-stakes boss battles and PvP rankings would laugh at my experience, call me a weeb or something. In my downtime, I checked the wiki dedicated to the game and didn't see any new posts or threads involving Melora's questline. No developer announcements save for server maintenance on its usual scheduled day. I checked a few game forums and still nothing confirmed there was anything different. Maybe I was the only one who knew about this. In any case, I couldn't wait to get home and continue the quest with Melora. When I logged back in, my character was still sitting on the shore where I'd left him, but nearby there was a campfire blazing cheerfully, as if someone placed it there for my benefit. I checked my quest log and saw that the quest I was on was still active, but the description simply said, "Wait for Melora to return." Weird, and kind of amazing. A couple minutes passed, and I began to receive private messages from my guild asking why I was still out here. I replied that I was just enjoying the zone, and when I was done I would run a dungeon or two with them. And then some white text appeared, which indicates speaking distance in the game. Not sure I clarified that earlier. I forget that not everyone plays these kinds of games. But anyway, it was Melora, and I saw the quest log update to the next part of her storyline. The text read, "Who are you talking to? Certainly not me." Oh, I was speaking privately with one of my guildmates. As in telepathy? Of course, I'm sure they were worried about you. What makes you say that? How you vanished, and yet I could still sense you somehow, as if you were still there, and yet not. Of course, she would know the exact coordinates of my character's last position before logging off. Yeah, something like that. Not to worry, I'm here to stay for a good long time. And thanks for the fire. Very thoughtful of you. After you had vanished, I was uncertain what to do, so I made camp here. You never know what could be prowling near these waters. She turned to gaze out over the water then. Although there was no animation, the sounds of gentle waves breaking in the distant seagulls suggested them. I could tell she was thinking about her lover, lost and probably dead. And somehow I think maybe it might be different this time. Having done this quest a few times before, I knew that Lonus was indeed dead inside the dungeon's depth nearby, hacked to pieces by fishmen. But this time around, I wonder if that's true. As we approached the entrance to what looked like a temple partially buried in sand, covered in corals and clinging sea life, I realized that going in there would mean the death of both of us. I told her that we needed more help to proceed. She looked at my character appraisingly, saying that she was sure the two of us could do it. I won't bore you with the details, but at my character's level, I would be hard-pressed to make it past the first few monsters that lurked inside the instance. Usually these things are intended for 5 players with special skills to effectively navigate them. But inside we went, and it was not what I was expecting at all. The usual groups of monsters were spread out more, and seemed more attentive to would-be trespassers. So we had to sneak, if such a thing was possible. It wasn't just this NPC that had been given this new dynamic upgrade, but maybe being on this special quest line changed everything around it. It was quite an experience. And upon seeing the body of her beloved Lonus in one of the many waterlogged chambers, she didn't seem sad. more relieved as the finality was presented to her. Nonetheless, I felt a tug at my heartstrings, knowing that she preferred knowing the truth rather than living with ambiguity. And again, time had slipped by without notice, and as I logged off after telling Melora that I had to, she said something that didn't hit me until I was looking at my desktop interface. She called me by my name, my real name. She said, "Sleep well, Kevin." I just sat there gaping at my screen, wondering how this was possible. Either I was just really tired and imagining things, or this was a pretty severe security leak. My account information was not included in the game files. That was separate. I must have told her my name at some point in one of our many conversations, but that didn't track. Our conversations rarely broke character, and when they did, she would just get confused and interpret it into relevant game stuff. Something I tried very hard to avoid. I'm not sure why, but I was really invested in the immersion. Perhaps this was when I began to think it was not intended functionality. The next day, thankfully, was Saturday, and before I logged on again, I pinged some of my guildies from a message service the guild uses to organize raids and stuff. I asked them to write out to Melora's cottage and see if they noticed any changes to the quest line. Of course they wanted to know why, it being so far out of their usual routines, so I offered 20 gold to whoever would go check it out. 20 gold is a fair amount, and so I quickly had a response in the affirmative. I demanded screenshots as proof, and my guildmate did one better. He streamed his journey out to Melora's cottage. That's like a real-time video of what he was doing in the game. Once there, I saw the old familiar character of Melora standing in the doorway. "Aw, man, I don't have the message in a bottle. I need to do this. You gonna make me go get it?" 20 gold is 20 gold, man," I replied. "Okay, fair enough." I watched as he did the tedious trek from the cottage to the coastline, and then back again to see Melora standing there with a yellow exclamation point hovering over her head, like an NPC. Not my Melora. "Huh, interesting," I said. "You want me to do the whole dang quest too?" "No, man, it's cool, you can drop it. Just wanted to see something, thanks. Gold will be on its way presently." "Haha, nice. Thanks." I logged in onto one of my many other characters to send him his fee, then switched over with an odd foreboding. While the status bar crept across the screen, I wasn't sure what to expect. But sure enough, there was a campfire there to greet me as the game resolved. My quest log simply read, "Save Melora from the Tide Reavers." "Shit!" I exclaimed, while setting my character off in the direction the quest indicated. Tide Reavers are the zone's free-roaming baddies that account for many character deaths, myself having died to them several times when going AFK for a drink or a bathroom trip, only to come back to the ghost screen. I wished as I ran that I had a higher level character to do this, as they had a fast land mount and much better armor to deal with these things. But I suggested that on any other character this questline would not be active in the way that it was. And so I ran all the way up the long stretch of shoreline, letting mobs chase after me until they reached the end of their chase protocols or picked off by other players. I could see a lone figure fending off two massive crab-like creatures. Her bow was out and she was shooting while moving away from them. My character dashed in at triple speed when he was close enough to do so and began to hack at them. Together we made short work of them, as she could unload without having to keep her distance for harder hitting attacks. This was the last stage in the quest, as I recalled, having to bring a keepsake from one of the Tide Reavers which belonged to Lannis, and sure enough there was a necklace on one of the husks. I wondered then what would happen once I turned this into her. Would she just return to her cottage for the next player like myself? Or was this something else? There was only one way to find out as my character approached her with the necklace in his inventory. There wasn't an icon hovering over her head, but she held out her hand instead, and I clicked on the item. She held it for a moment and clasped a fist around it tightly before kissing her knuckles, then promptly cast it into the motionless water. "Goodbye, Alanis." The white text seemed almost a pale gray, which I read as a hushed tone. Then she turned to my character with another quest prompt. There was the familiar option of the chainmail shoulder piece I would have normally picked, and another thing. The other option was a dialogue option, and forsaking the sweet armor, I clicked on that, and then her text began to scroll across the chat window. "Kevin, you now have a choice to make, a big choice, and you can take all the time you need to think about it, but it will change your life forever. I will return to my cottage now and await your answer. You truly love this world, and you are being offered a chance to live here for as long as the world exists." I couldn't believe what I was reading. Was this for real? Can this really happen? I just typed one word before logging out. Okay. So, now here I am, staring at the login screen with a mixture of excitement, terror, and about 1,000,000 questions unanswered. I'm not sure if this will work, but I've decided to see where this goes. If given the choice to stay in my so-called reality, the one where I hate my job, my family, the fact I have no friends or lovers, or to go where I've never felt like an outsider, a place I truly belong, I guess I'd be committing a terrible tragedy if I stayed here. This being a record of what happened, in case it's real, of course. If not, I will just file this away under weird things that happened to me in life and no one is the wiser. But if it does work, holy crap, I guess you might see me again, adventuring somewhere in my beloved online world. Well, here goes nothing. I've got a quest to turn in.